This is me exhaling. Everyone, wherever you are, just take a deep inhale, exhale, because today we're doing a Dear Katy episode, which is kind of new. I've been doing it over on my podcast for a while now, but I thought it would be kind of good to bring this over to the YouTube world because, of course, Q&As are really great and answering questions about myself and whatnot is always fun to do, but I think that answering questions that come directly from you guys about things that are bothering you or things that you don't know how to tell your friends or just things that you're secretly kind of going through and agonizing over and replaying in your mind and stressing over. And so I do think that some help can come just from someone out there saying, I hear you and your feelings and your hurt is valid. And so that is what I try to do with Dear Katy, and that's what we're gonna do today on the channel. So just so you guys know, I haven't prepared any answers to these questions or anything, so this is really just raw and real what I think in the moment of reading the question for the second time, because of course I've read it once to screenshot it. But Dear Katy, I've never met someone that made me want to get to know them. It's always the same. I meet someone, they seem really nice and funny and cute, but it always just feels like there's something missing. Like I've never had that, oh my gosh, this guy is so awesome, I really want to get to know them better feeling. Is there something wrong with me? P.S. I've only ever been in love once. It was an unrequited love, but also not really kind of thing. The guy had a girlfriend but kept me on the side with the, you're too good for me, I would only hurt you. It was a total mindfuck that went on for 4 to 5 years. I've never been interested in anyone since. First of all, for the latter part of the question, the PS, I'm glad that this is in the past for this person, but I do know that there are many people out there that are in a situation where the guy has another person in the picture, and I feel like people know that they deserve better oftentimes, and they know that they should be the only person in this guy's life, and they shouldn't have to compete for attention. Because when you are in a relationship where, or in a almost relationship, or just any sort of situationship with a person, you should never feel like you're competing for their attention with another person. Because if you are, that's not ever going to be something that is genuine, that is something that will make you better. Because if you think about relationships, of course you're in it because it's fun and it's exciting and love is exciting and pleasurable and all those things, but you're also in it to better yourself, because a good relationship with a good sound person that appreciates you and that lifts you up and makes you more confident and makes you more adventurous and all of these different things that a good, pure, genuine relationship gives you. Of course there's things that you work through, but you should never have an overwhelming sense of, oh my gosh, like I'm competing for this guy's attention. I don't even know if he likes me, or I don't know if he's thinking about someone else. Like you shouldn't have to think like that at all. And so in a solid relationship, it's a mutual sense of like we're building each other up, we're making each other better people in the sense of like just all the things I just said. I just wanted to kind of knock this out first, you know, the second part of this question, because I know other people are experiencing this, and I saw some things in my DMs where people were like, well, there's this other person that I've seen and I'm unsure, but I don't want to rock the boat. Always rock the boat. If you have that gut feeling that maybe something is happening on the side, it probably is, and if it isn't, then that nagging feeling is going to kill you. Like if you don't rock the boat, there's gonna be an even bigger boat that's gonna come and slice your boat in half, you know, come at you on the port side and just really fuck things up, because if you don't give attention to the thing that is bothering you, it will probably come back to haunt you that you didn't sooner, if that makes sense. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of address that first. Thankfully, this person got out of that 4 to 5 year kind of thing, but I even feel bad for the person that they had to go through 4 or 5 years of this other person saying like, oh, you're too good for me, but like, and giving that guilt trip situation, or like, I still have someone in the picture, but I want you on the side because, you know, there's just all these things. So I relate a lot to this concern. The initial one that says, you know, I haven't met anyone that made me want to get to know them better, or I'm head over heels for. It's interesting because I think romance and love is the only realm, or one of the only realms, where working harder doesn't necessarily get you better results. You know, this is kind of my mentality when I was going on like 3 Hinge dates a week in New York City. I was like, you know what? I think, sometimes I think mathematically, okay? Not all the times, not most of the time. But in this instance, I was like, okay, so if I just go on a million dates, like the more dates I go on, my odds will be higher, or like statistically speaking, the odds of me meeting someone really great will be increased because I'm going on more dates. If I go on less dates, the odds of me meeting someone really great are slimmer. So I just gotta go on a million dates. And while that mindset kind of, I guess, works if you think about it mathematically, that also means that I am just like zooming through dates, being like, okay, yes, okay, no, like, okay, next. And I'm not really giving anyone a chance, honestly. And that was kind of my first bad mentality. And then I was like, okay, great. So I'm just gonna go on one date. And then I did this thing where I obsessed over the person, okay? And I like didn't, I overdid it and I put all of my eggs in that basket. You're either putting your all in one person and kind of amplifying them to the point where you set pretty unrealistic expectations for this person, given you've only known them maybe like a week, or you're like doing too much and you're spreading yourself too thin and obsessing. And either way, you're kind of leaving feeling very confused about like, is it me? Like, is it my fault that I can't have a connection with someone? And you compare yourself to your friends and you compare yourself to people on the internet and all the things. And at the end of the day, guys, if you seek fulfillment, okay, and like validation from everyone apart from yourself, like aside from you, from everybody else, and I've learned this the hard way in so many instances, if you are solely focused on, you know, getting the validation and the acceptance and finding the special people that will complete you, if that is what you're solely focused on, you will always end up feeling empty. I'm gonna go back to that analogy that I made probably like 8 months ago now. If you are looking outward too much for validation, if you are, you know, eating out too much when you have all this really awesome food in the fridge, this like organic stuff you got from freaking Trader Joe's in your fridge, and it's so good and so delicious because who doesn't love Trader Joe's, and you're still eating out, you're going out every night and all the food in your fridge is just sitting there unwanted and going bad. That's a metaphor for how it feels when you are consistently looking for validation outside of yourself. And this person saying like, I feel like something is missing, I feel like something is missing in every person that I meet. Well, I think that for me, at least, I can only really speak for myself, when I was looking for a person in New York City and I was going on all these dates or just going on one and obsessing over the person, either instance, the reason why I always felt like something was missing was because I think I was doing it almost as sport, kind of, because I felt like I needed to, and I felt like I would feel better about myself and I would be a better person if I had someone else to complete me and someone else to just wake up with and go do stupid things with. And I didn't want love for the right reasons, I think. I don't know, I just feel like as I've gained more love and respect for myself, the importance, the overall size, I kind of picture it as like a big hole, a big gaping hole that I've been trying to fill with everything outside of myself. So like friends and guys and just intimacy and all these things that I've tried to fill this hole with. The hole has slowly gotten smaller and smaller and smaller as I've started to realize how much goodness I already have. So that was like a really long freaking answer. I hope that answered the question. It just breaks my heart that so many people out there think that something is wrong with them because they can't establish a connection. And I get into those moods all the time. Like I do stupid things like go on the internet and search like wedding reels and like wedding videos, and I watch those and I cry. And that is not healthy, okay? Because I'm gonna get into this in a later question, I think, probably based on what I remember, but okay, let's just skip to that question actually. Not all the questions are romantic. There's some career-based ones, so wait till the latter part of the video for those. Okay, so dear Katy, one of my best friends is in an amazing whirlwind dream romance and I'm happy for her, but I can't help but feel jealous. I've never had a long-term relationship and I see how happy she is and it's all she talks about. How do I stay happy for her while not feeling jealous? Love your podcast. Thank you. Well, feeling jealous is something that is kind of inevitable. It's kind of hard to not feel jealous. And while feeling jealous is not something you can necessarily prevent, what you do with that feeling you can work on and you can kind of direct those feelings. Have you heard that quote? It's like, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. You know, while a lot of ugly emotions just kind of happen because we're human, and that's just like a human thing that we're gonna feel those ugly emotions. Like I remember my early days of becoming a Christian and in the church and all of those things. I remember there being times where, you know, we would be taught like, oh, you need to be patient, you need to be kind, you need to be all these things. And I felt this overwhelming feeling of like, I'm never going to be a good Christian because I cannot prevent these feelings from creeping in. And even if you're not a Christian, you must also maybe feel sometimes like there's all these pressures to be a good person, and you still have these ugly, ugly feelings that creep in, like towards your best friends, towards your family, that you can't stop from happening, and you feel so horrible. Don't feel bad about that, because it's something that is human. Like I said, it's what you do with those feelings. And so with this, and what I was kind of going off earlier, their success, someone else's success, a couple's success, repeat after me, their success is not my failure. I've heard this a lot. I don't know who came up with this kind of idea, but I repeat this to myself all the time because I get so jealous, okay? And I'm comparing myself always, as do a lot of people. But their success, like this person's success in their relationship, this person's marriage, this person, you know, finding their other half before 25, like, well, I've accepted that, you know, it's okay to not be on the same path as your parents, and you know, generations have changed, and then also not everyone's path is going to look the same, and that's why not everyone's story looks the same. And if everyone's story looked the same and everyone's plot line was the same, it'd be the same book printed over and over again, and who wants to read the same book over and over again? So I had this like crushing feeling of failure when I turned 25, and the day after I woke up and I was like, wow, I think that maybe I took a wrong turn somewhere. It's hard not to sit there with those feelings and feel like, oh my gosh, I failed, because look at all these other people out there who have accomplished this, that, and the other thing, and they are the same age as me. And it's very hard to see those things, and with social media it's even easier to see those things. And I'm just sitting here wanting you guys to know, wanting me to know, that there is not an equal sign next to this person's success. You know, their success equals my failure. That is not true. Okay, that is something that our brain likes to tell us. This is really hard to wrap your head around, but sometimes the worst thing you can do is trust yourself, okay? Like, I know we're supposed to have faith in ourselves and all these things, but sometimes our mind tells us totally false, totally ridiculous things, and we get sucked down a rabbit hole of believing ourselves, and it will upset us. And so I think you should definitely look deep in yourself and find your worth there and work on you. But sometimes we gotta know when we are lying to ourselves. And it's easy to spot. It's easy to spot these feelings because it's usually a spiral, and it's usually a domino of like one thing on top of another. And if I'm having a bad day, it just becomes even worse because I convince myself all these other reasons why I should be having a bad day. You gotta learn the things that get you out of those feelings. And a lot of times you can't control that they're coming, like the jealousy, the comparison, all those things, but the one thing you can do is control where it's going, okay? It's like when you're on a road and you're driving and you hit ice and you're spinning, and of course I hope this happens to no one ever. It's the worst. It's the scariest feeling ever. It's happened to me a few times. When you hit the ice and you start spinning, and it's like, okay, I couldn't control the fact that I hit the ice necessarily because I didn't see it. It was black ice, it was on the road, I couldn't see it. But I can control what I do with the steering wheel and whether or not I'm going to, you know, keep myself on the road or, you know, and do all the things you're supposed to do that you learn in driver's ed, but I can control what happens next. And of course that was kind of a bleak example, but it's true. You know, you can control what happens next. That is the power that we have. And what I do to get myself out of those funks and the spirals and the horrible feelings of self-doubt and is something wrong with me is I remind myself how right I am, you know, not how wrong I am and how, you know, there's something wrong with me. I remind myself that there's something so right about me, and usually it's either art-based or I film a video or I podcast, and I just remind myself that there is something good that I have going for me. There is something that you have that is so special and that you can do to get yourself out of a funk, and only you know what that is, but once you figure it out, it's pretty easy to control the feelings, I think. And some might think it's a kind of a distraction, and I don't agree. I think that, you know, even while I'm creating an art piece or I'm doing something that is kind of my reaction to feeling down, I am still kind of processing through it in my own way, if that makes sense. you shouldn't, you know, brush your feelings and your hurt under the rug. You should confront it and figure it out, but doing that when you're already in a really negative headspace is kind of hard. We're gonna kind of stay in the romance realm for a bit, and then I think the next question after this, we're gonna go into career stuff, so stay with me if you want to hear that. So the next question is, should you try to stay friends with a guy you met on a dating app and you kind of like him, but he's only looking for casual things right now and you're not really up for that? Well, this is tricky. I define friends. I personally, if this was me, I would say don't, because that's kind of, it's thin ice, honestly, because you could end up maybe doing something that you're not comfortable with just because you get attached to this person. I find that if I'm talking to someone that just wants, you know, just wants friends with benefits or just wants something that I'm not comfortable with in that given moment, the more I talk to them and the more I get to know them, the more I kind of fall for them. And I feel like that is just tricky territory, because then you'll just get kind of upset if it leads to the very thing that you aren't comfortable with, and it kind of just happens that way. So I personally would say no, maybe like keep them like on your app, I suppose, like maybe you don't feel like you need to unmatch them, but I would kind of steer clear if you're in a mindset where you don't want that. Dear Katy, I want to know if you've ever felt crippling FOMO, maybe even now as you're living at home and watching your friends in New York and LA. This semester of college, I stayed at home at my parents' house to do school online while all my college friends moved back to their student house. I can't shake the feeling that I'm missing out, even on the little things and experiences. It's hard as this is our senior year. Any tips on keeping your mind positive and busy during these waves of FOMO? So you're definitely not alone. I feel crippling FOMO. And for me, it's kind of a cocktail, like FOMO kind of coupled with some other feelings of like, I feel like I'm missing out, but then also I feel like my friends are forgetting about me, and I feel like I am not a key member of the friend group, like I'm kind of just on the outskirts, and all of these feelings that are just simply not true. But when I'm in a funk, my mind just kind of goes there. And through therapy, I figured out that the reason for this is because of just past trauma with friends. Like I've had a really hard time making genuine friends, and I've made a lot of ingenuine friends that have really hurt me. And I had the bullying incident in high school, and well, incidents plural. And so it's a lot of those things wrapped into one. So I think the first step of kind of dealing with FOMO is kind of identifying why you're feeling it. At the core of it, you're gonna feel FOMO because, of course, with social media, it's even harder to not be somewhere where everyone is seemingly having fun. And if you're sitting somewhere not having so much fun, it's hard not to compare your situation with that of some other people that you know and that you very well could be a part of. Like it's hard, of course, you know, when you're having a FOMO feeling when it's something that you would, you know, someone online that you don't know, and you're like, oh, like I would never be invited to that anyway, or I don't know these people. But it's even worse when you do know the people and you're seeing on social media, or you just know that you're missing out on a situation like being at school with your friends. And it's very tough. And I think this falls into the category of knowing when your mind is playing tricks on you, kind of similarly to what I was saying before. Because like I said, it can kind of send you down a rabbit hole of feeling like people are forgetting about you, and that you are, you know, your friends are still having fun when you're not there, and it makes you feel bad. And so I think that you need to know when your mind needs to be put on ice and don't think about, or put on ice, is that, I don't know if that's the right saying, but you know what I mean. I think that there's certain times when you need to know that you need to take a step back from social media and stop comparing yourself and your situation, and remind yourself why you're not there. Remind yourself, you know, you're doing this for your health and for your family and the various reasons why you're not there. So my answer to this is kind of a few-fold. It's like, remind yourself why you are missing out on said situation, and then remind yourself that your mind plays tricks on you. You are a valuable member of the friend group. You are loved and valued by people. Just because you're not there doesn't mean your friends don't love you, doesn't mean, you know, just because they're having fun doesn't mean that, you know, would you have rather them not have any fun because you're not there? Like, there's certain things you need to remind yourself of that way as well. And then also just know that people tend to paint things a lot more fun, a lot more vibrant, a lot more exciting on social media than they truly are. And for me, when I'm missing out on something with my friends, I just remind myself that, you know, there are good times left. Like there's still goodness to come, even though right now we're kind of in a tricky spot in many parts of the world, and we are missing out on a lot of things. And I was talking to a friend the other day about how it can feel that this year is kind of a wash, and like we've lost a full year of our 20s. And we can't, there's so many reasons why we can't think like that, because Well, of course, there's more years to come. And I think also having fun only in your 20s and like being crazy or whatever number of different things only in your 20s is a myth. There's no age in which you need to have it all together and you need to have a spouse locked down and all of these things. Like it's very much a societal kind of pressure and invention, and there are still good times left. There's still gonna be times when we laugh until we cry and we're having a crazy night and we're eating pizza at 3 a.m. and there's gonna be all those times still, and it's kind of exciting that it's going to happen eventually and we don't know when, and it's kind of exciting. It's like we're reading a book and we're just flipping the pages and we don't know when it's gonna start heating up. I love when that happens, when it takes you by surprise in the plot. So, but yeah, FOMO is something that a lot of people feel. I think I speak for basically everyone when I say we've all experienced FOMO at some point in our lives. So, oh, I just realized my clasp on my necklace. Oh, it's gonna bother me in post-production. I always wanna like reach through the screen and like fix my hair or like fix my necklace, and I just, yeah, well, perfection is a myth. Okay, next question. Dear Katy, I could really use some advice career-wise. I'll have my degree in psychology in a few weeks and I'm due with my first baby in April. Congrats. It's kind of crunch time to figure out if I go for my master's and what to go for or to pursue something else. I've always been super creative, but my fears of not being good enough has always held me back with creative endeavors and seeking out a career based on it. I also live on Long Island, so I need to be making enough to provide for my future family. Any advice would be super appreciated. I feel like I'm stuck in this rut of indecision and it's hurting me emotionally. Thank you so much. Okay, and someone else actually asked a very similar question asking, did I ever worry about my degree and if it would serve what I wanted to do in life? So this other person is going to school to be a teacher and they're almost done with the program and they're in this weird feeling of like, I don't even know if this is what I want to do full time. Like, have I sealed my fate? Am I kind of stuck doing this forever now? Like that sort of feeling. So after college, now what? And how to direct yourself into a path that feels comfortable and feels right and feels inspiring. It's really hard, honestly. And I think that kind of first year out after college or the summer before you kind of get started in the world, or it's different for everybody, but for me that was a time of total emotional turmoil. I felt so confused and so lost and was kind of just convincing myself that everything was okay and I would be okay and like coaching myself through it, but I felt extremely conflicted. Of course you have all those feelings because you're about to embark on a new chapter, and that's scary, and scary things make you question everything you've ever known. That's just kind of a given. So don't feel like it's just you experiencing these emotions. And a lot of times it doesn't even matter what it says on your diploma, like what degree you got or your GPA. When it comes down to it, the most important thing when you are up for a job is how you market yourself, how you present yourself, you know, how you do in interviews, and also who you know. And I don't think that's ever gonna go away. It doesn't always come down to who you know based on like who your family is and, you know, who your mom knows. A lot of times it's who you know, kind of network yourself with, and who you, networking is a whole other subject that I would definitely go into detail with, and I've gotten many opportunities through networking and things like that. But to go back to these questions specifically, number one, your major doesn't always matter. So don't freak out about that. If you decide as an education major that later on you kind of want to do something more creative or it's going to be okay. I know people with law degrees that went on to do creative things and start creative companies or work. Like at L'Oreal, I remember talking to people about their majors. We had poli-sci majors, we had majors all over the place, and yet they still ended up at this makeup company in marketing, etc. And so it really doesn't matter as much as you think for many careers. Granted, of course, science or math and things like that, it makes more of a difference, of course, but for a lot of careers it doesn't really matter as much. But I also think it's important to say that you can do things on the side while you are doing your kind of full-time career, because I know it's hard to graduate and be like, I'm going to start my own business, or I'm going to be a freelancer right now, like the day after I graduate. It's really hard to keep yourself afloat doing just that, I will admit. But sometimes it is kind of more comforting to have a day job and consider your arts, your fun stuff, your, I don't know, designing things for your Etsy shop, or every creative endeavor possible is just like fled my mind, but just any sort of fun little thing you're tinkering with, like, and you love and you maybe want to turn into a career someday, you can have that on the side and do that while you're doing your kind of full-time career to make sure you're paying the bills, and then have that on the side. And of course, yes, it's a lot to balance. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a lot. It takes sacrifice, but if you are happier because of it, that is a sacrifice that I think is worth it. sometimes you won't be able to go to the thing on Saturday and you need to film a video, or you need to work on this graphic thing, or I don't know, something. But if it is fueling your soul and it makes you happy, it won't feel like an obligation. It'll feel like something you're looking forward to. And eventually you can make the transition, the leap, to doing it full time maybe, and that will be something beautiful. This person that was trying to be a teacher but wanted to maybe do something more creative, like you can be a teacher and do things more creative as well. And of course it's a balancing act, it is, but it's something that is possible. I've seen it done. You know, there's been YouTubers that were teachers and then ended up just being full-time YouTubers, and you know, maybe teaching also and turning it into content. Like everything you're doing, like your full-time gig, can be made, of course there's like NDAs and things, but it can be made into content and it can give you an angle that's different. And so it can be done. And so kind of to tie this question into a neat little bow, or the answer to this question, don't feel like you're limiting yourself by choosing, you know, a certain major or a certain career path. You're not. You're giving yourself that experience and you can always pivot, okay? You're not sealing your fate with this one decision. And I feel like a lot of college kids need to hear this, because I certainly didn't know that. I thought that I was kind of, you know, once I dove into my first corporate job, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of stuck here now for a while. And then I got myself out of it. Thank God. I got myself out of that quicksand and, you know, pivoted, and now I'm really happy. But not to say I wasn't happy before, but I'm happier now. And yeah, never stop trying to figure out what that sweet spot of work and you know, enjoying the work you do, because it is possible to work and enjoy said work. Of course, it's always going to be work at the end of the day, and I think that's where people go wrong. They think that their dream job won't feel tiresome at times. It definitely does. Every job does. It's a job. But know that you can find the sweet spot of genuinely enjoying your work. So another question I'm going to answer. Dear Katy, I've been dating my boyfriend for 10 months now. We are very happy and we communicate well. The only issue is getting along with his friends. They all grew up together and they live by each other, so they're really close. I've tried hanging out with them a few times, but I always get left out. I'm shy and a major introvert, so it's hard for me to be outgoing and get to know people. It's even harder when they all know each other and only talk about things that are personal or familiar to them. My boyfriend says he's talked to them about it, but they haven't changed. I'm not sure if it's my fault or if my boyfriend should try to include me more, or both. I could really use your help. I think his friends are great and all, and I think this is important for our relationship. Thank you so much. Okay. I have a few thoughts. First of all, I think a lot of times when you are thrown into a new group of people that all know each other, it's very easy to convince yourself that you will always be an outsider. That sort of thinking will always kind of guide your actions unless you decide that it's in your head. Of course, I don't know the full story here, but maybe your boyfriend's friends aren't super happy that maybe he's been spending a lot of time with you and not with them, and there's probably deeper reasons why they aren't as welcoming with you. You know, of course, they would just rather maybe you guys not date, so then they have more time with your boyfriend, and there's all these things. It's tough because I know it is important to be friends with your boyfriend's friends, like to feel like you are a part of his life in every corner, every way, shape, or form, but it's tricky when you feel kind of unwanted. I know that feeling. What I typically do in kind of foreign social situations where I'm kind of entering an already kind of pre-established friend group is I kind of pretend like I'm already a part of the friend group. Like I kind of go about it like I'm already one of their friends, kind of, because I think that sometimes the tendency is to try really hard to make them like you, and that can backfire. I don't know, you shouldn't have to beg for people to like you. So, you know, do your best to try to assimilate into the group and, you know, be there for when your boyfriend wants you to be there, but don't feel like you need to make it your life's work to be in this friend group, because that will only drain you. I think, personally. When you're with these people, do your best to not drain yourself mentally, emotionally, physically. Just be there, be present, but kind of relax yourself and convince yourself that this is not an end-all be-all sort of thing. Like if I'm not friends with my boyfriend's friends, like we're not going to date anymore. It's not going to work with us. Like don't convince yourself of that, because that isn't always the way it is, and they could come around. It doesn't seem like maybe it's been for that long that you guys have, 10 months now? Okay, so people will come around, and I think that there's this tendency in a friend group to hate anyone that is taking your friend away from you and giving you less time with them. So I would just give it some more time, you know, just go into it not feeling so pressured and so stressed about it. Just go about it with a very clear, very level head and just try to pretend like they already accept you, and try to, you know, I think people can sense fear and sense emotions like you know, you feeling kind of timid and scared around them. And of course, if you're a shy person, you know, it's hard to kind of get around that. But if anything, you know, continuously showing up and being there will show them that you are not going anywhere, you are here to stay, you know, and they kind of have to just get good with it, okay? I think personally it's probably a little bit in your head, maybe a little bit like you're convincing yourself like you'll never be a part of the friend group, you'll always be the girlfriend. That's not true, okay? That's not true. It's only been 10 months you've been dating. Just try to calm yourself down and really just get out of your mindset of feeling very stressed over making them your best friends. Yeah, it's really tough. I hate feeling excluded and feeling like you're a part of a group but you don't know people's true intentions or people's true thoughts of you. It's really, really tough, but you know, armed with this new mindset and just finding some peace in it all will really, really help. So yeah, those are my 2 cents on that. So yeah, guys, that I think is going to be the end of this episode of Dear Katy. I have so many questions that I've gotten, so maybe I'll do another one next week. Like, let me know what you guys think about this sort of format. I really think that, you know, videos like this really just kind of peel back a layer and help people, I don't know, maybe just start to find some peace in their life. That's always what I hope with these sort of things. Like, am I an expert? No. But I think that people have this fear of helping other people or giving their 2 cents because they're not an expert, and imagine if people kind of leveled with people more and just listened and even gave their 2 cents. Because when I'm with a friend and I'm asking for advice, even if they don't give me the most stellar, amazing advice where I feel like I actually can like act upon it, just having them listen to me makes me feel very heard and a lot more at ease than I did before. I just kind of got it out and put it out there. So yeah, that is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys all tomorrow in yet another episode of Vlogmas. So talk to you then.